Before this life, I was working as a registered nurse. Today, my days look very different, potting up seedlings, baking bread from fresh ground flour, and teaching my kids at home. People often ask why I would leave a stable career to live this way, especially with a big family. So today, I wanted to share that story while you spend a few normal days with me here at my homestead with my kids underfoot. Let's start today in the kitchen because that is probably the most used part of the home. Am I correct? Any other homemakers have a different place that they spend most of their time in? So for me, for a long time, I thought the path was pretty clear. Build a career in nursing, work long shifts, and provide stability for our family. But over time, our health journey and what I was seeing in healthcare started shifting the way I thought about everything. And the changes that we have made did not happen overnight. They definitely took a lot of prayer and consideration on both myself and my husband before we made really big, drastic changes like we did. While I go through a couple typical days here, I'm going to be baking several things from scratch, potting up some seedlings. I want to take the time and talk about the reasons we made these decisions to step away from my nursing career and to choose this lifestyle instead. So on this day, or should I say evening, I am preparing for tomorrow's breakfast by making sourdough biscuits with the fresh ground flour that you saw me mill. And can I just tell you that doing it this way with fresh ground flour is my new favorite way. I don't know why I felt so intimidated going back into sourdough when I started freshly milling my grains, because it just changes everything. That long fermentation process allows all those grains to soak everything up and to make everything so delicious. I'm going full steam ahead again with the sourdough. I had taken a break, like I said, when I started doing the fresh milled grains, and now I remember why I did it to begin with. So I have a bunch of tomato seedlings that I did a bunch in these little tiny pots, and I'm going to go ahead and separate some of these out. I probably won't keep all of them, but I'm going to up pot them into bigger containers. So like the yellow pear tomatoes that are right here and the large red cherry. I have a bunch that are in these little 6-cell. These 6-cell Bootstrap Farmer allow for root aeration, and they are wonderful. I will link them below. So I have a whole flat. I don't know if I'm going to do the eggplants today, maybe this one, but I do have like these, the Dr. Witchy's yellow right here. There's a bunch, and then Kellogg's breakfast. So I did 3 small cells of different varieties, so I have a bunch. And you can see maybe you can see, but there is the roots coming out, and I have already fertilized these once because they're just in regular seed starting mix, which means they need to get into something bigger, like these bigger trays or the bigger containers. These are Bootstrap Farmers. This is all Bootstrap Farmer. It is definitely one of my favorites. I do also like Vigo Garden. I'll put the links to all of this stuff down in the description box below. So I'm not using anything fancy. This is literally just from Costco. It's not really organic. It says organic choice, but I believe that is just a marketing ploy, but it's $8 for a ginormous bag. I'm not going to be too picky. To each their own. I do have seed starting mix still left over, so I am contemplating which way I want to do this. So I think I'll just use this bag to up pot. If I was starting seeds, I would probably mix it. So my first initial gateway into what you would call homesteading was during the COVID era. Right before it actually happened, I had just started my very first home garden. And when the COVID stuff happened here in California, I felt that push, like everybody else in the area, to get the garden going essentially on steroids. I believe it was called the Victory Gardens back in the day, and that was a term going around again. And from there, we really started to view how we were living very differently. And it has only spiraled. After that, we got a few chickens while we still lived in the city. And after that is when we kind of decided to make a way for me to not work and stay home with the children. They were getting older. We were already homeschooling one of them, and we had several more that we didn't know how we were going to do it with both of us working. I was working 3 night shifts, and my husband was working 4 10s during the day at another job. So we were stretched pretty thin already. And knowing that we couldn't sustain that, we definitely looked at different ways for this to happen. So before I really get into why I left the healthcare medical field altogether, I kind of want to get into why I became a nurse to begin with. Back when I was young, probably around 20-ish years old, I was kind of flailing around like most 20-year-olds, I guess, do, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And so I joined the Navy and became a hospital corpsman. I worked in labor and delivery for a few years and med surge. And while I was in, I was able to challenge the LVN board, or other places called LPN boards, and become a licensed vocational nurse. When I got out, I did the LVN to RN program, and then I did the RN to BSN program. I have worked in many different fields. I have run assisted living facilities. I have run SNFs, skilled nursing facilities. I have worked in hospitals. I have done everything except pediatrics. Go figure. So when I say I started noticing things I didn't like in the medical field, know that I have a broad view of that. So this morning I am making the biscuits, and I am going to be browning up some sausage and making biscuits and gravy for my family. And I have shared a little bit about my personal health journey here previously, but just to touch on it briefly, back a couple decades ago, I really started questioning why they couldn't figure out what to do with my migraines, what was causing them, and they just kept throwing medication at it like they do. And I have a very, very long list of allergies. My dog tags, I had 2 red ones, just to put it mildly. I was not going to be able to be out on the field because I couldn't have anything that would be given as a first responder, including penicillin, morphine, all that good stuff that a doc would be carrying in their pouch. So, with that said, I really did start looking at alternative ideas, things like essential oils, and eventually I found herbalism. Fast forward to the COVID era, and that is one of the many reasons we decided that making a drastic change would benefit our family as a whole, with me being home, me being able to homeschool our children, and my husband has always wanted to be the main provider. And so, with that in mind, we sold our home and moved to the mountains, so to speak. We're on the ridge, but we had to make a lot of concessions to make it happen, and that was one of them. Going from a two-income family that made six figures down to just above the poverty level is an adjustment, to say the least. But I say that only to give encouragement for those wondering if they could make this kind of switch, if they can make it happen. And I am here to tell you that absolutely you can. I had made these the night before and put them in the fridge, and they swelled up really nicely. I had added some cream on top of them and a little bit of the canned apple juice because I used my pre-canned apple pie filling to make these and put it on the bottom. And it was absolutely delicious. My children thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it's a cinnamon roll. Be pretty hard for a child really not to enjoy it though. Another turning point during the COVID era for us was realizing how broken our food system was and just how, for the lack of a better word, crappy our food system is with what we have available and is literally defined as food was very eye-opening and did lead me down another path that I won't get into today. But learning to cook from scratch and to utilize the food that I was growing in abundance in my garden and not letting it go to waste. So, learning how to preserve it, not just cook with it, and learning what it meant to have a stocked pantry so that if situations or disasters happen, whether it be natural or man made, that my family would not freak out and run to the store. Are you wanting it?
Yeah. Mom, but mommy.
So on this day, I had prepped a few different doughs, one for pretzels, one for ciabatta, and one for some sandwich bread. And yes, these are all sourdough. They are all from the Farmhouse on Boone cookbook. I will link below. But I wanted to help prepare myself for the week, and this worked out wonderfully. Part of having a stocked pantry means that you have to learn to cook from scratch. You have to learn to utilize the things that you are bringing into the home. And like I've said previously, I went out and just bought a whole bunch of stuff that I knew would fit in buckets and would have a long shelf life that unfortunately my family just doesn't eat, like the split peas, the lentils, things along those lines that I am slowly trying to get through. But that is a learning curve that we all go through in this lifestyle at one point or another. As I was seeing the changes in the healthcare slash medical field, I started turning to herbalism and learning the major differences, such as actually getting to root causes of issues, the underlying culprit, so to speak, instead of just slapping something on top of it and calling it a day and then circling back when whatever you slapped on top breaks or causes other issues that spill out. So, when I started learning herbalism, I really took to the garden even more. And it really has become a true passion beyond just a hobby for me. It's a way that I know that I can provide for my family. It's a way that I know that I can rely on ourselves and even help the community because let's face it, when you grow squash and cucumbers and such like that, you generally have a surplus that you can go and bless other people with, whether you put it in a basket or on their doorstep and just like doorbell ditch. I mean, who hasn't done that? But you see what you're able to do for your family and for your community, and it becomes something that you're going to continue to strive for, in my opinion. Getting back to the good old ways of how it used to be when neighbors would help neighbors. When you go from making six figures to above the poverty line just slightly, like I said, it is a very drastic change. And that is another driving point for living this simplistic-ish homestead lifestyle. Because, like I had mentioned, I'm able to use the garden and some homemaking skills that I have learned along the way to feed my family on the quote unquote cheap by utilizing what we have in our pantry. So, when you're buying things in bulk from places like Azure Standard or even Costco, you are able to spend less money per ounce, so to speak, than you are if you were to buy like the individual sized products. Not only that, when you are using pantry staples like the fresh ground flour or even just regular good all purpose flour and so forth, you are using ingredients that you know, and you are not using things like dough conditioners, whatever that is, or extra preservatives and stuff. I heard or read Joe Salatin talk about dead bread versus alive bread, and that was really eye-opening to me, that the reason our bread that we make from home only lasts a couple days is because it was alive. It's not teeming with preservatives that make it a dead bread like what you buy from the store that has absolutely no nutritional value, unfortunately. I really do hope that this video is encouraging to you, no matter what your stage is of homesteading, whether it's something that you're actively pursuing or not. But this life didn't just happen to us overnight. It was a lot of small decisions over time, learning to question things, learning new skills, and slowly building a home centered around a healthy family and self-reliance. And honestly, more than that, even just community reliance. We have built a great group of friends up here and just love the community that we are a part of. And I pray that if that is something that you are looking for, that you are able to find it. If you have found that, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. And I will see you in next week's video. Bye, friends.